So our next panel, we're going to be talking about online retail from bricks to clicks. The conversation will be moderated by Mutaher Khan, who is the co-founder of Darbar, a portal trying to make private markets in Pakistan more accessible and transparent. Mutaher, please join me on stage. With Mutaher is Kassim Shroff, the CEO and co-founder of Kravemart. Kassim, please join me on stage. And Adnan Shaffi, the co-founder and CEO of PriceOye. Haider Raza, the co-founder of DealCart. Moazzam Ali Khan, the co-founder of SnappRetail. And Mina Salman, the founder of Bagallery. Everyone, please put your hands together. Give them a warm, warm welcome while they're getting settled on stage and their mics are getting turned on. Another round of applause. You can do it. Our audio tech team needs more time. Thank you. Over to you, Mutaher.
The first question that I think I would like everyone to answer, but try to keep it brief because this topic has been discussed again and again. The digital customer, how has the behavior of online customer or the market of online customers changed since the pandemic? Over to you, Kassim, and then we can move in order.
I think, hello? Yeah, so I think it's all about convenience, right? We're really online grocery delivery, at least, agar hum baat kare. It's all about convenience. And really, when you shop online, the people that you're competing with is the Kiryana stores, right? Or someone at home can go niche jaake Kiryana stores se saman la sakta hai, and that's the convenience that you're really going for. And I think the population towards Gen Zs and how Pakistan's changing is what really is our pure target.
So we started fulfilling 2 weeks before COVID. So not really, I think, my expert area to comment on how user behavior was before COVID. So I think Haider might.
Yeah, so I think we started in very much in the post-COVID world, so 6 months back. And I think over there, what we've seen is that while the COVID has spurred a lot of growth when it comes to e-commerce penetration, I think we still have a very long way to go. And that's, I mean, that's also partly because of the fact that, I mean, from our perspective, from DealCart's perspective, because we're going after the middle and lower middle income segments that generally have not transacted on e-commerce before. So people now more and more have smartphones, but primarily using it for Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, TikTok. And that's the kind of audience that we're trying to serve and bringing them online. So I think there's definitely spurred growth, but for us, it's still a long way to go, especially in the category that we're dealing with, which is grocery for now. So in grocery, the penetration is still quite low, and lots of exciting room for growth. Yeah.
Moazzam?
So thank you, Mutaher. As you know, our play is more B2B. So we work with the small retailers, Kiryana retailers, and I think we've seen a huge growth there in 2 ways. One, we're seeing not only our cohorts coming from the urban centers, but also down deeper from Gujranwala, Faisalabad, and from the smaller cities, second and third tier cities. Also, what we're seeing is the traditional retail, the shop owner, the first generation, the fathers are moving away, their sons are coming in, daughters are even in certain instances coming in, and we're seeing a younger audience. Of course, they are a lot more tech savvy. So for us, when we go for our deployment, it's easier to close the loop. The conversation is easier, and we see them, driving habit change in them a lot. It's a lot easier and a lot more sustainable.
So, can you hear me? Yeah. So in our case, when we started off, e-commerce was a bit of a no-go zone. People who were not previously comfortable with shopping online, there was a question like, do you even shop online? So we've seen that transition, like people was getting they were getting more comfortable with e-commerce, and they were comfortable with different kinds of solutions, like they were comfortable with using like their credit cards and all these details. And then the adaptability and the digitalization that we've seen, the the social media penetration, like even the tools like Instagram and Facebook, they were like really, they really drive the e-commerce. It's very easy when you are on any app, like social media app, you can shop online from that. So we've seen that transition of customers. So I think ease is like, and adaptability are the more like things that we have, seen over this post-pandemic, and it's like it's growing and growing. There's no stop to it.
So let's, we've already talked about the new customer, right? That's more tech-savvy, Gen Z customer. But I think everyone here has used a different acquisition strategy. Bagallery has been very active with influencer marketing. Haider here at DealCart, they are using a more community-based approach. Adnan and Kassim, they are both using a mix of digital marketing plus out-of-home advertising, which is a bit more common these days for startups, but hasn't been the case for the longest time. So I would like you to guys, especially first you guys maybe address how does that mix look like? What's the impact of each channel? And how does offline help with your online presence? What have you seen?
So I think for us, offline is more about brand building, right? And brand, you basically do a campaign maybe every 3 months or 4 months, let's say 2 or 3 times a year, where you really go all out and you acquire customers and you build that base, jisko kehte hain, and then that base is what you target for the next 3, 4, 6 months on making sure they come back and come back. And obviously you need to acquire customers digitally, online, offline, but once they start buying from you, then you retarget them on social media through Facebook and etc. So it's always a mix. I think it's really, me and my co-founders, we were talking about different channels hote hain, and there's not one channel कि यार मैं online पे focus कर लूँ या मैं out of home पे focus कर लूँ. Social sharing, all these things really matter, right? Loyalty and etc. So word of mouth and experience is what we focus on, and that's probably brings us the healthiest customer, right?
As Kassim mentioned, we use a lot of different channels as well for different purposes. So right now, PriceOye is the second most visited shopping website in the country with, 38% of digital population of Pakistan has visited us in the last 2.5 years. So for us, the out-of-home campaign was not really for bringing in the users because we already have a lot of users coming on the platform. So our idea for out-of-home was to build trust. So we looked at different channels at that time, and we especially looked at television because that is something that made sense initially. Because anyone, even with a $10 check, can start spending on digital advertising. So that might bring you users, but people know that anyone can do that, so they don't trust you that much. That you're a legit company or a big company. So the way Flipkart or other companies in the region did it was by going on television from day one. But when we analyze the data, in today's day and age, a lot of our audience was not on television. Nobody was looking at television anymore. So for us, that didn't make sense. So then we thought, let's just sit down and see what makes sense that can get the best ROI that we can track as well, and also build that branding factor. So an idea came for doing out-of-home campaigns. We did our first campaign in Karachi. We were able to track the results based on per billboard in that particular area. The results were so phenomenal. Then we did another one in Lahore, followed by one campaign in Faisalabad, Peshawar, Multan, and then another one in Karachi. So that's how we kind of used out-of-home campaigns.
All right, that's so Haider. Now would like to come to you, because you guys use sort of a community-based approach to new user acquisition. Your model is bulk buying. So tell us about how you go about it. How do you acquire the new user? Walk us through.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, for us, there are just like the other panelists, we have multiple channels of acquisition, but what we are trying to really, for us, the holy grail is the referral flywheel, and that is essentially where the use of group buying comes in. That if you have a good enough, a relevant product at a great price, the customer to get the group price shares that product and shares that deal across with others. and thereby bringing in more users. So I think that is essentially that has to be the main kind of focus for us. That's like product-led growth, where those groups are bringing in new users for us. And the discount is essentially the incentive for them to do so and to join those groups together. So that's one. Another thing and that's literally how we started. We started with, back in the day when we didn't even have a product, we started with WhatsApp, and we went to a workplace, got these people together, explained to them that we'll be sending you deals on this WhatsApp group. Come together, buy together, and if you get, for example, 10 people buying the same deal together, everyone gets the group discount. So that's how we started, and then we transitioned to our app. So that's the product side of it. And then there's also the incentives and loyalty programs and points for sharing, and that's something we're working on building into the product as well. And then finally, there's WhatsApp. WhatsApp is also very important for us because our user is very comfortable on WhatsApp, and he already has WhatsApp. Majority of them already have WhatsApp on their phone. So that's like a very easy entry point for them to very simply order a product online on WhatsApp, and then kind of we like to transition them from there into the app. So that is something that also is a good channel for us and has been there since day one. And then yes, of course, some digital marketing for our relevant target audience. That's also been important. Yeah.
Moazzam, I'll skip you for a second, and I'll come to you for the next question, which is related to this. But Mina, can you walk us through about, because Bagallery was one of the leading players, earliest players that leveraged influencer marketing well. So what's your mix like? How do you go for the new user now that you guys have a sustainable base as well? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it again drops down to your business and what it stands for, and then you need to understand who your target market is and where are you going to find them. For us, most of our target customers, they are online, and you can find them on Instagram and Facebook. So we've done a lot of influencer marketing because then again, our category was more beauty and fashion, and beauty and fashion relies heavily on customer generated content and user generated content. People really want to see if they're buying something, a beauty product, how many different ways they can use it. So for us, it really worked because influencers, again, it's a very big category. A lot of people think that influencer marketing is just you get influencers, you pay them money, and they create content for you. It's not like that. You really have to identify, like if you're any brand, what kind of influencers are going to work for you. Like there are micro influencers and nano influencers and there are mega influencers. So first you have to select them. So we have a proper campaign through which we work, and we generate content through influencers that eventually helps us. And apart from that, we don't only rely on influencer marketing. We do like emails. We've done 2 very big on-ground events. We called it Glam Fest, one in Karachi and one in Lahore. And that really worked for us because that was the time where people who were not comfortable, still not comfortable, shopping online. So they came and they actually experienced, how, different brands we have and what kind of products we use. Apart from that, we also have affiliate programs. We have emails. We've done, billboards also. So we have used a good mix. But then again, if you just want to divide it like 40 to 50%, yes, influencer marketing has always worked for us. We were the pioneers of influencer marketing. A lot of, like similar companies and brands, eventually adopted the way. And they've seen the results because the results, again, are measurable. You can check your insights and, you can measure the data and what is working and what is not working. So I think, yes, it's kind of worked for us.
Thank you so much. So the next question is basically, we've discussed in the first question that still like the overall market is growing, but just the number of internet users, the number of digital population is still relatively low in Pakistan. And that calls the question, do we need to have, or do startups need to adopt an omni-channel strategy? And I think in that, I would love for Haider and Moazzam to contribute. And Moazzam, I would like you to talk about how it is different, because you are doing a hardware play as well. You guys actually go out and give out the POS machines as well. Until some time ago, that was not something that VCs were very excited about because there was a hardware aspect to it, right? Yeah. So how do you go about it? Haider, maybe you start, and then Moazzam might take a bit longer time.
So I think for us, omni-channel has been very much part of what we're doing since day one. we started on WhatsApp, like I said, because we wanted to be fast and product development was taking some time. So we just started on WhatsApp. So and after that is when 2-3 weeks after our launch is when we actually introduced our app to the customers. So for us, Omni-channel has been there from day one. And why it's super important at this point in time to have a tool like WhatsApp, to use a tool like WhatsApp in addition to our app is primarily because, I mean, again, it's very important to also understand who your audience is and who your customer is. And for us, our customer is very comfortable and has generally not been using e-commerce. So to make it easier for them, to make it something that they can adapt to and start using e-commerce, the lowest friction path then becomes an app that they already have and a lot of people in Pakistan are already using. So I think that for us was then a very clear choice, and we've seen examples of that of these social chat apps being leveraged very well by players in China, by players in India, in Brazil. So I think for us that it was very important because of the customer that we were trying to acquire and serve. So for that reason, WhatsApp has always been important, and then from there, of course, we have the app, which is, and then the app is also very important because then you have to kind of upgrade the customer from a platform that is very good, that has amazing penetration and is a great communication platform, but then is restricted because there's only so much that WhatsApp will let you customize. So you have a very restricted set of tools that you can use. So you have to then kind of bring them into your ecosystem, into your tech ecosystem, which is the app, right? And there, the customer can come in, order far more SKUs, engage with a lot more better experience in terms of shopping, and where that's the kind of journey that our current customer has. And then I think, I mean, not necessarily another channel, but something to help these two existing channels that we have are the offline community leaders who are essentially there and getting and educating people and getting more people to use in their neighborhood and in their near their where they live, and creating those communities through WhatsApp, right? And encouraging them to use the app, and we give them an incentive to get more customers. So we could regard that as a third channel as well. But that's the customers funneling in from there are essentially coming to WhatsApp or the app.
So the entry point of the funnel is that the community service representative that you guys have on the ground, is that generally the first point of funnel?
So it could be the first point could be that, but at the same time we're not restricting ourselves to just that. We're also using other channels. We're also trying to acquire customers otherwise as well. So it's a mix essentially. It's a mix of where it comes from.
Moazzam, over to you, and walk us through and how does it differ, especially in a B2B play and a B2B hardware play. How does it differ? How much important is that omni-channel route? If you can guide us.
So, Mutaher, so our play, just for clarity, is that we digitize traditional retailers. We give them an Android screen, a barcode reader, and we give them a digital printer. And the objective is to completely digitize their shop operations and have all their transactions flow through this to create the largest data lake. Now, this in our case is critical because one, we are driving habit change, and we need the always-on platform in his store. And if he's operating off his mobile, we find that he's interacting with that application about 250 times a day. And it's just not possible. Phone ki battery khatam ho jati hai, he's gone for lunch, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a choppy experience otherwise, and you aren't able to drive habit change. But once, and secondly, the barcode reader is very important because the quality of that interaction and the data lake is absolutely critical, right? I mean, it just can't be done manually because we really can't then verify what he's putting in and if it's that, how useful that data is. So. Now, once this ecosystem is set up, of course, the next step then for him is revenue growth and acquiring consumers for him. And there, of course, is where we're able to give visibility to our partners, which are various online platforms, for example, who are then able to drive customer traffic to him. And because there is an always-on digital machine lying right there, they're able to accept those transactions, fulfill those transactions. And based on that data lake, our partners are able to identify what he's stocking, what he's not stocking, kis frequency se, what is his location. So for me, for us, we are actually an enabler for the omni-channel for our partners. And fundamentally, that key, that doorway into the traditional grocery retail, the micro retailer, so that the seamless consumer experience from their online application down to the brick and mortar environment is seamless. The conversation doesn't need to start all over again. They can seamlessly order online, come in here, or vice versa.
And how critical it is for the quality of data that you do a hardware play?
So like I said, I mean, so you have to understand that currently traditional retail in Pakistan is operating in their legacy manner, right? And you have to drive that habit change. And like I said, for that habit change, you need to be always on in the store. If out of the 10 hours, they're able to use the app 5 hours and not use the other times, it's not really habit change, then it's anecdotal, right? And I keep hearing that, the data is important, but actually the El Dorado of data is the quality of that data. You could have a lot of data and it could be like crap data, right? So it is important that once the habit change is driven, it's driven through that barcode, it is all electronic, and then our partners have the confidence, whether it be banks, whether it be e-fronts, whether it be B2B suppliers, they have the confidence, or fintech and micro enders, that the data they have to be confident of the data, it is true, it reflects its true abilities, its true value, and then of course, from there onwards. So the hardware is essential, it is critical to the whole.
Mina, circling back to the omni-channel conversation, one of the comparables that you guys have in India, like one of the inspirations probably Nykaa, has gone the offline route as well, right? Is that something that at Bagallery that you guys are looking at? You mentioned about the Glam Fest. Is that the kind of approach that for now you're going with?
When we started off, we were like an e-commerce platform, and for right now, this is what we are continuing to grow, because even what Nykaa is doing, they're very much into beauty. But when you come and look at Pakistan scenario, when we talk about omni-channels, it's more fashion-oriented. We have big brands who have omni-channels, but they are more fashion. And beauty, I think, we're still far behind India. So, and when you look at globally, you can find so many examples like Sephora, Cult Beauty, for example, and look fantastic, and they're just focusing on their e-commerce strategy. So for us, I think doing little bit of on-ground activities here and there and then focusing more on the e-commerce is something where we're looking at. Or maybe we can look into like pop-up stores. Globally, again, you will find like big brands, they just acquire a space for a few days and they put up a cute little pop-up store where people can come, they can engage, they get their pictures taken, they can know about you, the brand, what you offer, and all the deals, and then they can go home and so this is something what we're gonna be looking at least for a few years now.
Great. So Adnan, I have a question for you, because you guys started out as a price comparison website, right? Before you entered into e-commerce, before that, I think 3-4 years or something, you guys were a pure data play. How has that helped you as an e-commerce company, and what kind of data points you're looking at when acquiring new customers, when converting customers? What's the thought process like?
So actually that helped us a lot, because that made us understand what the consumer actually wants and what they think they want. So they're generally two different things. We always think that it's the same thing, but it's not. So I'll give you an example. Traditionally, if you want to buy a washing machine in Pakistan, probably not you because you're smart, but a traditional person, if they want to buy a washing machine in Pakistan, what happens is that they go to a retail store, they ask the salesman, they only have one thing in their mind, which is the price range. And in that price range, whatever the salesman tries to convince them on, they end up buying that product. And they have some neat tricks up their sleeve, like they'll say, oh, I just bought this for my daughter, you should really get this. But actually, that's the product that they're making the most margin on. So we collected over 50 million data points over the years and developed an AI-based recommendation engine, which really helped us grow. And that's one of the most used feature on our website today. So for every category, we'll ask you 3 simple questions. Like for washing machine, we'll ask you, what's your budget? How many household members do you have? And what is your washing frequency? And based on that, we recommend you something that has ideal size for you so that your electricity consumption is minimum, your water wastage is minimum. Similarly for smartphones, which is our biggest category, when people want smartphone in Pakistan, generally people ask friends and family for recommendation. But every person is unique, so their needs are unique. What's important to you might not be important to me. So we feel that this decision making needs to be smart again. So we ask 3 simple questions, like for smartphones, we'll ask you what's your price range, which phone do you use right now, and which feature is most important for you, whether it's a selfie camera, battery life, processor, and based on that, recommend you a phone that's suited for your needs. Hence, we get a lot of customers coming on the platform for the top of the funnel where they use PriceOye as a default for product research, and then some go and buy offline and some do it online. So that helps us understand the user and then target the right audience so that we can get the maximum ROI for converting the user, which is coming on the platform, to an actual customer.
Great. So I think the next question is a bit of a dampener, but I think between January and March, we saw the overall e-commerce, at least the digital transactions that were paid for digitally, there was a major dip in e-commerce. And there's been a lot of discussion on how inflation is skyrocketing, right? We've already touched close to 30%. How has that impacted e-commerce? The initial numbers, I mean, these are again old numbers, but what's the latest on-ground feel like? How has that impacted your order flow? Are the volumes still sticking around? And maybe Haider and Moazzam will be able to guide because they are operating in a slightly different areas compared to the other 3. And I'll elaborate on that. So Kassim, you take it from here.
So I think the space that we're in, groceries mostly or everyday essentials, those are needs, those are not wants, right? जैसे कि Adnan भाई बात कर रहे थे, phone is a want. Sometimes you change it once a year or maybe twice a year. Groceries you need to eat, you cook 3 times a day, 90 times in a month is where the customer taps. So what we've seen is not demand decrease but brand change, right? So for example, पहले अगर लोग डालडा use करते थे for oil, they might use something else now, a much cheaper brand or an alternative brand. Similar to tea, if people used to use Tapal, let's just say I'm using this example, people will now use something else which is a bit cheaper, right? So alternatives aana shuru ho gaye hain and etc. And I feel that's the sort of effect on inflation. But for us, the play is still the same. People still need to eat, people still need to shop, and people still need to do their everyday grocery essentials, which are their sort of, again, needs, right? And
so do you think there's an opportunity for special, so if people are moving down the brands, there's an opportunity for maybe unbranded or self-branded products?
Of course. So we have our own private label brand, almost 100 SKUs that we have our own private label. So lentils, hamari sari private label hai, all masalas that we have that are private label, eggs is private label, we're launching bread right now, rice, sugar, salt. So things you can private label which there's no brand loyalty, right? Masale mein koi brand loyalty nahi hoti. We can't compete with Pepsi, hum apni Pepsi launch karte. I mean, Punjab mein gourmet ne is probably is the opposite of what I'm saying, but that, leaving that aside, generally we're in the category where people do private labeling. But private labeling ki samajhna bahut zaruri hai. You do it either to develop a brand or you're different in pricing. So if I'm selling my masala at the same price as, let's say, Shan, then there's no point of me doing private labeling. I'm actually incurring more costs than just buying, right? So price comparison or price being less is probably a very, very critical factor for us, and obviously doubles the margins overall, right?
Adnan, for you, obviously there's an added effect of devaluation and the price increase, how has that impacted your business?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because we were ready when we were seeing that inflation kicking in. We were like, it will hit us badly, and because we were selling very high value items such as a mobile phone, which is around 30,000-40,000 rupees average basket size. But two things happened. First, we realized that phone or your smartphone or your laptops are not wants but needs now, because you need it for everything, like literally your work, your social life, everything. So people can probably hold back on their groceries and still want a phone, or maybe even take a loan and then go for a phone. That's why another startup like Bazaar is doing an amazing job in this area, because they're able to tap that right market at the right time. But also, initially, so our promise is that we give the lowest prices. But then in the offline space, so people are doing a lot of research online, and this is pre-inflation. And they were then going into the offline market and then seeing there was a delta in the price that we were like, of 2 or 3% cheaper. But they were still like, we just came to the store, the difference is not that much, it's just 2-3%, so let's just buy it even offline. So that was happening. But now, after the inflation, people are coming on the platform, reviewing the prices, going to the offline store, finding out that they're 2-3% cheaper. So initially, they were okay with paying 2-3% extra. Now, they're not. That delta means a lot to them now, because their average disposable income has shrunk. And so that they're coming back again on the platform after going to the offline store and then placing the order. So for us, inflation actually helped drive our sales even more than impact us adversely. So it surprised us as well when we, kind of saw the numbers in what was happening. But it's basically the delta between our prices and the offline market prices that really didn't meant much to the people, but it means a lot to them now.
So Haider, you guys deal with bulk buying and targeting lower and middle income segments, right? What trends have you seen, because you're already operating in a price sensitive market?
So the thing is that for us, we are like Kassim mentioned, that we're also focusing on groceries and as household essentials. And even within that category of groceries and household essentials, we've really tried to keep the concentration towards tier 2, tier 3 locally manufactured brands that are cheaper than, let's say, your big international brands or your national brands. So I think that has been a focus for us from day one. Yes, inflation now, with inflation, our customer was already spending a majority of their income on groceries, and now even more so, because groceries, you can let go of a lot of things. And the last thing probably that you would let go of in terms of, if it gets too expensive is your groceries. So in that sense, we're taking, by focusing on the price conscious user and being able to provide them with great prices through our value proposition, as well as, free delivery as well on top of that. So that, I think, has been something that has helped us grow as well, even in this environment. But at the same time, we also see tier 2 and tier 3 brands grow much faster on the platform that we've created versus more expensive brands, right? So I think that has been kind of like the impact that we've seen, and it kind of, that due to all of this and the trends that we are seeing, we're also even more convinced that focusing on this segment with the right prices and providing them with those efficiencies through group buying is a need of the hour for our customers. Yeah.
So Moazzam, you're not directly dealing with the customers, but you do have access to that data, right?
Yep.
What trends have you seen in the Kirana ecosystem?
So, Mutaher, the first thing I say is that, we're tech entrepreneurs, right? Our fundamental job is to solve a problem. And the larger the problem becomes, the bigger the opportunity to solve it. So, as opposed to what's everybody else, running helter-skelter because of devaluation and inflation, I think as you've seen here as well and with us, the inflation has presented a huge opportunity because we see that our consumers are short on liquidity. They don't have the ability to, or lesser and lesser ability to do the monthly bulk buying. So now they're doing a lot more transactions in their corner Iriana. And as they're doing those transactions, we're seeing our cohorts, who are the corner Iriana, their value go up, their transaction value goes up, the number of transactions are going up, and as their transactions are going up, there is more complexity. And therefore, now we're seeing them calling us and asking कि जी ये जो machine है ये आप provide करते हैं, so we want that machine. So I think there is the answer to your question, like with everybody else, is even in the E2B arena, we're seeing a bias for our play in our cohorts because of inflation and devaluation.
And what about you, Mina? Because you are operating in the fashion category, which is again sensitive to the rupee dollar movements. Generally, there's not a lot of local production there. And again, in a sense, it's a discretionary category. So what trends have you seen in terms of buying power, in terms of volumes?
Definitely, Mutaher, it affects. I mean, you see dips. I mean, it goes up and it goes down. But then, when the season comes in, like, the festive season is coming and the shadi season, I think people are not going to stop getting married. And if you just see the trends, like the whole wedding industry is like if you just compare it from 10 years ago, people are spending so much money on just like 1 or 2 days. I mean, despite the inflation, despite the fuel prices are hiking, socio-economic conditions happening all over the world, and but people continue to spend, and even when you talk about schools and health and all these, people are spending money. So you do see dips. It will be wrong to say that it doesn't affect our business. Yes, we do see dips up and down, but I think after some time it just comes back, and things do get in order. Like even when I talk from the beauty perspective, the color cosmetics, like the makeup buying has gone a little bit down as compared to skincare. Skincare has picked up a lot. I think the people just want to take care about themselves, and self-care and all these things are picking up. So you do see few categories coming down, and and the other categories are coming up. So it just happens on and off. So yeah.
Related to this, and I would love to start with Moazzam on this, because you are again a B2B play where there's been a lot of activity in Fintech. Yep. How does that impact your business? How has the entry of a lot of new players helped maybe convert your customers, or again, there's been a lot of lending players coming in. Yep. They have money to lend. They have the loan book now. That's potential working capital financing for your customers. So how have things been with respect to fintechs? And I think you guys have a lot of partners as well already.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Mutaher, like we discussed earlier as well, fintech is what lubricates the growth of our business. It is very critical. Because you see, अगर आप पाकिस्तान में देखें, एक छोटा दुकानदार है, वो let's assume उसने 1000 पीस बेचे हैं पिछले साल में. You got 25-30% inflation. So just on a value term, if he does nothing else and just sustains himself, he needs to have 25-30% more working capital next year just to do the same amount of transactions and just to keep status quo. So, and these guys are not rocket scientists, like they're not investment bankers. They're not doing the, okay, isko idhar invest kare, usko idhar invest kare. So so in such a high inflation environment, fintech does fill that gap. And I think that it will increasingly become more and more relevant for our play and for any play which is operating in retail. So that is one. The second is also the ease of accessing that fintech. And therefore, and there, of course, the quality of data becomes important. Because at this point, a lot of when I talk to partners in fintech, and the reason why they come and partner with us is because they look at the quality of our data, because there is data floating out there. But what is that data? Is that data entered through manual intervention? Is that data organic? Is it coming in digitally? So, especially B2B, that is something very important. And that's what we strive to do. The reason why we see a lot of successful fintech partnerships with us is because we concentrate on the quality of that data. And of course, the quality of that data then allows them to understand what the buying patterns are, what the payback patterns are, and eventually drive down NPLs. And so fintech is critical lubricant for our business.
Adnan, I would like you to answer about, expand on this, because there's been a lot of BNPL players as well. Quite a few of them are focusing on mobile phone purchases specifically. And I mean, even before BNPL, I think mobile phones were one category where a lot of credit card installments were available. if I'm not wrong, you guys have a lot of installment plans available as well. Have you seen a major bump in customers going for these BNPL options if you have integration or expressing interest in these options?
Yeah, sorry. So people actually are interested in BNPL. That's the need. Even if you look at developed markets like the US, 90% of the people have their smartphone on installments. They don't pay upfront. That's why it becomes very, very cheap for them. And even then, not 100% penetration in those markets, right? So in Pakistan, there's a lot of demand for BNPL. So far, there haven't been many players who have been able to crack the credit scoring system to be able to do it effectively without low NPLs. But the demand is obviously there. Every month, we get close to $1.5 million worth of leads that are wasted just because we don't fulfill those BNPLs. We are currently offering BNPLs for credit card customers, but the number of credit cards are very, very less in Pakistan. So $1.5 million of leads every month going down the drain just because we don't have a player like Tabby or someone who can underwrite that credit risk and then do the lending part.
So like the US, shouldn't it come from the telcos themselves? Shouldn't there be any partnership between players like you and the telcos, right?
I mean, it's a debate on who should come up
recovery
first.
aspect will actually can be ensured from that end, at least.
So from what I know, that there are regulators such as PTA working with a couple of players trying to solve that issue where they can lock the devices if the installment hasn't been given out yet. But there's some legal complications towards that they're trying to see how they can maneuver around. If they're able to do that, sure, that will help a lot. But then we also need to realize that in Pakistan, the rights are not protected that much. The laws are not enforced as much as in the West, you know. So if your phone gets blocked, they'll say, hey, no worries, we can just, you know, set it and ship it to maybe Afghanistan or countries like that where phones are being sent out to, or we'll stop using the phone. But if telcos do it through a regulator, then it can become very interesting because then they can say that, you know, this phone number was issued to this ID card and now you can't use any telecom SIM in the country if you're a defaulter for a particular BNPL company. So that can be a very, very interesting business case, but there's still some loopholes.
Exactly, because Jazz, especially Jazz Cash, has been very aggressively building its loan book, nano lending loan book, and this wouldn't come this can come under nano lending because it's under 50,000 rupees, right?
Yeah, so not one telecom player can do that because if one blocks you, you can obviously shift to another one. So it has to come through the regulator like they did it with imported or smuggled phones, that if you get a phone in the country, you can't use it regardless of which telecom operator you choose because the regulator has asked them to block your IMEI number. And with phones, it's very, very easy because every phone has a particular IMEI attached to it, so you can really do it really well. So it's just the regulators who are trying to figure out how they need to do it. And if they're able to do it effectively, then I think the sky is the limit. You'll not only see the domestic market for smartphones and the smartphone penetration increase many, many folds, but also many large BNPL companies would then be using this credit score to lend other products to the same customer and increase their top line.
So for Kassim, for you and maybe Haider, what's the opportunity and have you guys seen any major customer base coming thanks to the fintechs? Has that been a trend, or there's still some room for experience play or even the broader product play? Because a lot of fintechs, especially in payments, they so far have been experience plays. What trends have you seen?
So if I can just add the BNPL thing, so very recently, maybe on a lighter note, Deliveroo in UK is starting to do BNPL on food delivery. So you can order a pizza on installments, which is next level, like crazy. Like, why would you want to order a pizza on installment, right? Na khaye, behtar hai, ghar ka khaye. But it's on a lighter note. But on fintech level, I think what you're saying is
I think maybe a subscription play. Like I think Glovo did that in Europe to an extent, and then there's obviously seamless integration with payment channels, with payment players. Has that been a big driver of customer base? Or?
So
How's it been?
So we're just starting. Matlab we work with traditional banks on acquiring new customers and giving them leverages on the discounts that we offer. We haven't integrated with JazzCash or Easy Paisa and etc. But we plan to. But overall, previously while I was at the Raza, JazzCash and Easy Paisa was a big user base, and I think it's a really important tool. I think in the next 6-12 months. So we're definitely focusing, I think, through priorities and etc. But that overall user base on that's buying online through a credit card or any digital payment, we need to increase. But then again, the customer, when he comes first time, he always pays through COD because of trust issues and all these things. But once he gets comfortable, आप उसको experience अच्छा देंगे, then he'll put his card and use it. And we've seen this trend go on for quite a while now.
Haider, anything to add?
Yes, for us, I think, just in addition to what's already been said, fintech for us and overall the Pakistani consumer adopting fintech is super important to us as well, right? I think even we've seen in Kenya, we've seen in India, we've seen in China, the adoption of fintech kind of is a precursor to everything else and like massive digital growth. So I think on a macro overall, I think that impacts all of us the same way, but specifically for DealCart, I think for us right now, it's running purely on cash, and while our customers love to do that and then they prefer paying in cash, but definitely we want to move that digitally as soon as possible, as fast as possible, because just managing cash from a logistical and operational point of view is very difficult, right? It's fast, it's quick, but at the same time it's super challenging, and it poses a significant operational risk to the business as well. So I think from a purely operational payment side, super important, makes the business a lot easier, makes the customer's life a lot easier, if the adoption is there, that is. And then of course BNPL, right? So I think that at this point, and I'm especially tying back into the previous question about inflation and how people are now not really buying groceries once a month, but have broken down their purchasing into weeks and weekly runs for grocery, and just to be able to if we are able to crack consumer BNPL effectively, I think that is a huge value add for the business, because being able to offer that and being able to kind of solve that cash flow issue for the consumer that now has, let's say, 10 days or a week to pay back 5,000 to 10,000 rupees of their groceries. I think that's a huge value add. So yeah, I think overall it's super important for the overall ecosystem.
Okay, so I think we don't have a lot of time, so let me just quickly more about what's ahead. So let's start with Mina. Mina, if you can tell us about what over the next 5 years, what do you see, how do you see Bagallery growing, what trends do you see in the category, is there room for adding further categories, what's your plan for the next 5 years, what trends are you seeing?
Yeah, it's like when we talk from e-commerce perspective, variety is the name of game. You need to give more options to the people. And one more trend that I really like Bagallery would be focusing on is, staying how to, innovating yourselves and staying relevant, what you offer on your website, people should be interested in that. So consistently innovating ourselves, in all areas like customer service and, back ends and front ends, staying relevant, giving more options and more variety to our customers. And, one more thing is like, you just have to give a very humanized form of the brands instead of just shoving and promoting your products on the face of customers. This trend we've generally built up on when you humanize your brand and when you talk to them, like, who are the faces behind the brand and how you're working, people connect with it more since, everybody's on social media, so you have to give a softer side. So if brands work on this, yes, they will develop a very good connection with the customers, and, it can go a long way. So we have working on that also.
Moazzam, I think with regards to hyperscale, you had something to add, and I would love
So I think a lot of us will talk about consumer trends, but I think something that I feel is a big missing piece for the next 5 years for our tech sector is the role of the government. I think still they are nowhere to be seen, and there is so much that can be done. I travel abroad, especially when I go to GCC. I mean, the way the government is playing a role over there to make ease of operations, and to really stamp tech into the DNA of their ecosystem. And we're still not doing that. I mean, a big shout out to Javed Iqbal at STZA. I mean, he's come back and he's really, putting himself out there. But he's one guy. We need more regulators who've come from more developed markets. And there are a lot of Pakistanis out there who are there. They should come, we should incentivize them to come back and really create the rails on which this whole thing is going to flow. And secondly, the government needs to be able to incentivize. I've just said in Punjab, they did a very simple thing. If you pay by credit card, 17% ki jagah 5% GST lagta hai. I mean, at the top, that's creating an impact. Imagine what that will happen when such sort of incentives are created the autumn. So for the next 5 years, we're going to do our work, and the VCs are going to do that. Money's going to come back, but I think the government's got to create that environment where we're able to capture and efficiently use more and more of it.
Haider, how do you see your model evolving over the next 5 years in Pakistan, maybe in the broader emerging markets as well?
Sure. So I think firstly, I mean, completely agreed with Moazzam on the fact that, the way GCC does, in GCC you see the government supporting startups and the overall ecosystem. For us, I think the first step is just to get to a stable state, right? Sooner rather than later, because I think that uncertainty has impacted, just like it's impacted all other businesses, it's impacting us as well. So I think that is crucial. And that can't happen over 5 years. It needs to happen sooner rather than later. And then at the same time for us, what's super important is, because it's a difficult time overall globally as well as locally in Pakistan, it's all about focus. It's all about focus, finding product market fit. We're very early. We're 6 months into our journey. So for us, it's all about focus, cracking the right value proposition for our target market rather than spreading ourselves thin, and sorting out the product market fit and scaling from there. And of course, once we have proven the model at scale, then other markets are also on the table in the region. But for now, the immediate term focus is definitely going to be Pakistan for us.
Over to you, Adnan, very quickly. I think you guys started from mobile phones, right? And you guys have expanded to other electronic items. What's the future for PriceOye? What are the trends you're seeing?
Yeah, so we want to be the JD.com for Pakistan. We started from mobile phones as one category, and then we became the largest in that, and then added accessories, became the largest. So our idea is that we'll go category by category, win each category, and then go to the next one. So in the next few months, you'll see more categories popping up. But a couple of things that we are very excited about, which are coming in the next few quarters, is our experience centers. Because for first-time online shoppers, there's a friction between buying online. So instead of selling things offline, what you're doing is creating these experience centers in different upscale malls where you can just go with the person, do an assisted order online, and then, so that the next time you can just quickly order the same product at your home. And then we also have these self-collection kiosks where you can just go and collect your product based on your convenience.
Basically omni-channel, right?
Yeah.
So Kassim, your business model saw great interest from VCs last year, but that has sort of fizzled out. How do you see your future over the next months, over the next few years, actually, regardless of how the VCs see it, right?
I think for us, the long-term vision is very clear. We want to serve 10 million customers by 2025, right, in Pakistan. And we're only a couple of % of where we want to be. I think groceries is only one of the categories. We're sort of like, आप Walmart जाते हैं, तो you see fashion there, you see multiple categories. And the way Walmart is actually, you go in from one end and you get out from the other end. And that's the concept that we want to build, right? And that's the long-term vision. We have added multiple categories, and we plan to expand to more categories. But for us, Pakistan is definitely the focus. I think there's a big market here. I mean, we're a Pakistani company for Pakistan.
Perfect. So thank you so much, everyone. I think it was really informative for me, and I'm pretty sure for the audience as well. I think we are out of time, so let's head out.